stand by while I get the stream set up. But welcome. Glad to have you here. Ow! This one's better than... I think that'll work. Yeah, that'll work. Oh, we can learn it's already. Okay. Okay. Let's see how that does, I guess. Hey Darren, how you doing, man? I'm doing alright. sure that I have an F somewhere. I guess I don't. I'll have to go a-farming. Yes?
We left this in the game room.
Wear that now. anybody have an answer? Ragnar, gotta get that Ragnar. Yep. Welcome back. I did. Because words have meaning, they matter, and She's adding drama where it needs not be. I don't know the details of it, buddy. I just know that she did something wrong. It's nothing you need to worry about. The only way that's going to happen is if you do something really, really bad. You're fine. Don't worry. Let's not talk about it, okay? Just know that you don't need to worry about it.
miles.
If you want.
Amazon Freight scales with you. Simple booking and 24/7.
Who have so New York City, it is the beacon. All of the billion dollar companies. No one is going to want to risk. It doesn't matter. It's like once that cracks open, it's like you don't put the genie back in the bottle. So it's just like it is such a bad look for New York. It has been horrible. I mean, me and you, we live. You're a little out there. You're in New Jersey, but I'm in New York. It's such a joke. Engeron, literally that whole that O'Keefe piece when he found him being a creep at the gym. That was literally two towns over.
That's right.
And a very expensive town at that. It's just like these people are up with that.
Now they tried to destroy the whole system. They wanted to bankrupt Trump. They wanted to have $500 million ruling so they could get the headline, say he has no money. They wanted to bankrupt him, and they wanted to send him to jail simultaneously. They didn't think he would survive it, and he did, and here we are. So that doesn't mean that they're absolved. They gotta pay.
It was so much better when corruption in New York was like masculine and cool.
Yeah.
Now it's like you got to be like live part, gay.
That's right.
Participate, and it's like so unfair. And it's also very vague. Like you don't know how to participate in the corruption. It used to be very clear.
Yeah.
You pay this guy.
Yes.
This, that. You pay off a cop. You pay off a lawyer. Now it's like you got to like take a lawyer. You got to take a
And the system,
brunch.
and
like it's ridiculous.
innocent people.
Mimosas, you
Yeah.
don't get.
Bottomless mimosas with the judge.
I never thought the day would come where you can grease someone's
Oh, it's
arms in New York with bottomless mimosas.
Yeah, it's these DEI bribery. It's terrible.
Yeah, crime used to be cooler, as you said, and innocent people used to not get caught in it. It'd be like, okay, it's like these people are fighting, or like these gangs, or like these organized criminals, and it was always like somewhat, systematic. Now it's just like indiscriminate. People are defecating on the sidewalk in between, and it's like it's not cool. It's not good.
Yeah.
Observation.
It'd be nice to have some classic corruption back.
Yeah.
Some traditional, good old American corruption. Like this, not like you said, where there's homeless people everywhere.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, so you talk about people going to jail, but I mean this isn't actually really put to bed yet. From CBS News, New York Attorney General Letitia James said in a statement Thursday that her office will appeal the decision to the Court of Appeals, the state's highest court. Her statement lauded one aspect of the ruling, which left in place sanctions barring Mr. Trump from serving as an officer or director of any corporation or other legal entity in the state for 3 years. His sons Eric Trump and Donald Trump Jr. were banned for 2 years. The court upheld the injunctive relief we won, limiting Donald Trump and the Trump Organization officers' ability to do business in New York. It should not be lost to history. Yet another court has ruled that the president violated the law, and that our case has merit. James said. The idea that it just has merit, like the parties involved when they were actually being questioned by the stand, they all said that they were happy with the action. Everybody made money. They were all considered, sophisticated and all understood the terms when they went into this. And this was something that Letitia James brought. And this is something that she actually ran. She ran to get her job as the Attorney General. She said that she was going to go and find the crimes that Donald Trump commits. Now, I know that there are some people out there that think that that's what the government should be doing, trying to find crimes that people have done. But there's no reason to go after someone other than Donald Trump, other than political motivation.
Her number one quote ever, Letitia James, is she said, in the system where everyone is too pale, and too stale. That's a Letitia James quote. So I think now in the wake of this, it needs to be too woman, too dark, and too zesty. Because it's the only. We just got to go totally the opposite way. And Letitia James is in a lot of trouble. I think that she's going to pay, not even for this, but she is now under investigation by the DOJ for mortgage fraud. So it's kind of funny, Trump got, the loan, and Deutsche Bank says, you said, Phil, Deutsche Bank said he was fine, he paid it back with interest, no problem. Letitia James committed hardcore mortgage fraud where she misrepresented where she lived and all these other things to get a loan term that she had no business getting whatsoever. She's literally guilty more blatantly than what they were trying to get Trump on, and similar. So I think that they're going to get him, get her, and Trump's going to get her, and I think Letitia James will go to jail over her own mortgage situation. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, she was committing crimes in Maryland. That's what you're going to go to bat for. That's what you're going to risk going to jail over. That's a downgrade. What are we doing? I didn't risk it do Nashville or something. Nice.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
Her development was where in Maryland was it? It's really nice areas in Maryland, so that was her. I just attacked the whole state of Maryland.
It's fine.
It's a small state, right?
Maryland's away from us, so just crazy. She can't even commit mortgage fraud. How do you expect her to prosecute?
Good mortgage fraud service.
Yeah, how can you get prosecuted if you can't even do it?
Yeah, her investment property wasn't in Hawaii or Palm Beach.
Right. I know. Like, get real. They're gonna get shipped on the same thing. So.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see, obviously, I would love to see Shiv and Letitia James see significant, legal trouble because of it. I don't actually have a sense that there's going to be anything that will come from both of those games. Well, I mean, look.
Oh, do you think nothing ever happens?
I didn't say
All the
nothing.
black fellas that are black. Nothing ever.
Say nothing.
Nothing
No, there are a few people around here that think nothing ever happens or nothing ever changes. Are the two kind of things that thrown about.
Nothing ever happens is shorthand for nothing ever changes.
It's like the internet slang. They said nothing ever happens.
I would say, as far as the comparison between Letitia and Shiv, it's like, with all the issues we do have with Letitia, it's like she did, as we did say, she ran on it. She's like, I'm going to go after him. That's what you're going to vote me in for. On the other side, we have Shiv, who was voted in to, take care of the welfare, and they just, in the Senate to help out his constituents. Instead, he took all of the time to literally lie about Russia and basically, if you want to argue, possibly, commit treason, basically, and just have an entire country divided.
He accused Trump of committing treason in the first term, which totally derailed everything that led to the impeachment thing. So he literally got on television and said the president is committing treason. I've seen the evidence. There was no evidence. Trump was included, but the Russian news laughed on Schiff should face consequences for that. Punishment for treason is death. Schiff accused the president of committing treason, trying to throw the country into chaos. So the question is, what should his punishment be?
Yeah.
Or something similar.
I mean, look, when it comes to what should happen because of those accusations and stuff, I think that's a totally separate issue from, mortgage fraud or whatever. And I think that the idea that mortgage fraud would be a good replacement punishment for what he's actually done when it comes to the accusations that he was making, I think the only problem is most of the time when he was making those accusations, he was on Congress, right? When he
said
actually
on television, I said on CNN that there's like a montage of him saying, like, I have seen the evidence. He did say to Congressman that, they say that protects you during Congress. But he said on television many times, I don't think we've ever had a politician who has breached that boundary. It's like, I don't like Democrats. I don't accuse them of treason. Like, you don't just accuse somebody of treason. So I think that just cost America. So what happens to the rest of America? We don't know. What's ever done.
Yeah. Well, there's also there's these, let's arrest Obama or Hillary, and you see that and you're like, okay, that's really red meat for debates, but that's probably not going to happen. But with this, where it's like, there's obvious smoking going on. Like, it's obvious they did these things, and DOJ's currently investigating. It really does feel like, okay,
We're talking
we'll get this crossed out.
in circles. Like, I feel like so much air is wasted on, shows like this talking about what should happen, and then nothing happens. and that includes the Obama red herring that Trump threw out there, which was right in the middle of the Epstein scandal. It's just a total distraction.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. And none of these people
Appreciate that.
The people that we're talking about now, no.
Well, I mean, I think that,
It's just funny to me that the whole campaign was marketed basically on, like, retribution.
I will say, it's a big Trump.
It's not gonna happen.
I need to see some high-profile, overdue rock-ups.
Too bad.
There is, I would say, yeah.
We're gonna have
I mean, there is a difference between, like you said, kind of throwing moment versus the DOJ coming up listing specific infractions that James and Schiff have made that they are currently investigating. Like, I mean, I agree. I need to see it to believe it, but there is a ramp up here, and like what mechanism we're actually bringing people.
I think that's a great point. I think that the idea that we should just it should be haphazard is a bad idea. I think that I don't want to try to predict.
I'm not gonna talk about it, buddy.
All that could be honest with you. But when it comes to if they're going to do anything like arrest, they can be arrested or whatever, their ducks have to be in a row. They have to have everything all together. And I don't think that it happens just as quickly as, we got into office in January and by May or June, we're ready to go.
It's a fair point.
And so I want to see people arrested for the crimes that were fairly obviously committed. I think that, like you said, if Schiff was saying stuff when he was on TV as opposed to on the floor of Congress, then like that kind of stuff he can actually face prosecution for. But if they don't have all their ducks in a row and they don't have the proper charges and everything, then you're not going to see anything happen from it. And then it would be even worse than not doing anything, I think. And to the point of what's going to be done,
don't stress about it.
Have shown that they will do all this stuff, and this is a point that we actually harp on a lot around here. Democrats have shown that they will send the FBI to the president's house and not arrest him, but search him and stuff. And then when they brought him in, they actually had him come in to New York of his own volition. So they didn't actually have to perp walk him or anything. But there were a lot of Democrats that wanted that. There were a lot of Democrats that were verbally saying, like openly saying, I want to see Trump perp out, etc. So it's not a good idea for Republicans to just let things go. They should actually make arrests if they have the material, the substance.
They wanted to perp walk Trump. They wanted to perp walk Trump for the only reason of let's just go perp walk Trump. And these people don't care about the Constitution or the framework of the country or what it was built on or what we're preserving. They don't care about any of that stuff. They just want to perp walk Trump. So at least when we say it, we understand the weight of doing that, right? Because we value everything this country is built on. We don't go after political opponents. But if they do it first and they do it under pretense, it's got to give.
And there's also a difference too, like the Democrats prosecuting Trump. The entire intel community is down. Like they're ready to rock. You just have to give them permission. They're like a bunch of rabid dogs ready to do it. With the Republicans, it'd be like pulling teeth. Because even though yes, Gabbard and co are shaking up the intel community. You're seeing a lot of security clearances revoked. A lot of people claim. I mean, Gabbard laid off like half of the DNI recently. Even at that, still, it's very entrenched. Still, a lot of deep state bureaucrats. It's going to be very hard to get the government moving in the direction of starting to prosecute some of these things. It's just the nature of the deep state's constructed. It will take, probably a year or two to really clean house, to give it a good scrub and get our people in there so we can start activating and utilizing weapons that legal weapons.
I mean, I think that's something that we can all get here and agree on. So, we're going to jump to this story here, and this is actually some good news from Bloomberg. U.S. to pause issuing worker visas for truck drivers, Bloomberg says. The U.S. will pause issuance of worker visas for commercial truck drivers, the latest in a series of Trump administration moves to clamp down on foreign workers, Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Thursday. Effective immediately, we are pausing all issuance of worker visas for commercial truck drivers, he wrote. The increasing number of foreign drivers operating large tractor-trailer trucks on U.S. roads is endangering American lives and undercutting the livelihoods of American truckers. The Secretary of State's post didn't include statistics nor specific examples detailing the nature of the threats. However, the move comes days after a deadly August 12th crash on the Florida Turnpike by a driver that was accused of making an illegal U-turn. The Department of Homeland Security said that the driver of the rig was a migrant from India in the country illegally. The Trump administration has repeatedly sought to tighten immigration rules for commercial vehicle drivers. In May, the Department of Transportation said it would up enforcement of an English language requirement for drivers following an April executive order from Donald Trump. These things seem so obvious, and it blows my mind that there are so many people that just don't jump right on and say, yes, obviously, this is something.
This guy was illegal from India? Okay, and we're surprised that these people can't drive. They don't have traffic laws. Look at any video. Look at Anthony Bourdain visiting India. Look at the B-roll footage that they take of the streets in India. They don't have traffic laws.
They bring their, I hate to say it, but they bring their third world shit country.
I was ready to say that. I love to say that. That's true.
Well, it's I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it's happening in every major city. And unfortunately, it's the reality. So when the Somalians come in to Minnesota, they turn Minnesota into little Somalia. Okay, they even change the flag. When the people come into Texas and the southern states from every single Central South American country that they're looking to escape, when they get here, they just turn it into that country. And then the Indians, they don't have any traffic laws. So what do to our roads? They turn them into Indian roads. racist thing. That's not a profiling thing. It's just reality. And the reason I hate to say it is because now we have to live with it. And we'll hear, how do you undo it? Trump's going to have to round up every single
Yeah, it's like, I mean, they can barely drive the tuk-tuks around. They're smashing it. It's like a demolition derby, and they're trying to wheel an 18-wheeler around. I mean,
I have noticed that the truck drivers are some of the worst drivers.
They're getting bad. Me and Mike are driving from New Jersey to here, and it was like, what is going on? And we're driving past everyone. Was like, no, definitely not American. No, definitely not.
Yeah, we're like,
Well, what's going on here? It's like when two tractor trailers are going on a highway at the same speed in 2 lanes, not allowing any cars to go around you. I think this.
yeah, go to Love's, like anywhere along I-81. It looks like a FEMA camp.
there are no white truck drivers. No. There's no white truck drivers.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, they're DEI.
And in these states, like in California, Gavin Newsom said he was going to, something about him with the truck drivers, like relaxing the laws. So they become a truck driver in California, but they're going all over the state. So it's the way that Gavin Newsom or anybody all over the state can just fuck it up for the whole country because they just go everywhere and cause accidents.
Yeah, this falls right on Gavin Newsom, California. Gavin Newsom falls. Right? This guy got into the country in California. He got his CDL from California.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, the people that have died because of this directly right on Gavin Newsom.
I'm actually curious. Like, how does the CDL work with the state? Is it different by state? Is it part of the process?
Yeah, and I think that there's some amount of standardization when it comes to the test. But if I understand correctly, people in California, if you're a foreigner, if you don't speak English, they will actually provide someone to help you. That was one of the super chats we got.
I got text messages coming into the show right now from law enforcement, literally watching the show that I know who are seeing, Timcast right now. And they're saying, I pull over people who don't understand the road signs. Like when they get pulled over, the thing is, you say, oh, what were you doing? You're just texting, or you're having a couple to drink, or the typical American things, right? Now they go, I don't even know what the sign said.
Right. It's not that they're like,
so bad.
they're not like crazy, like they don't want to hurt anybody.
You know the
but
signs?
they come from a culture that doesn't care about order.
Right.
Yes.
They don't like really register that in their minds, and they never will.
It's like now, like with Mad Max Curry Road and all the roads. When's the last time you heard a woman driver joke? Okay, women are off the hook now. There's these people everywhere.
That's the worst thing about it.
They have become middle of the road, the women drivers.
Yeah.
The Asian drivers aren't even at the
They're good now. Yeah, they're like, I'll take one.
Yeah. Now we have the Indians, the Middle Eastern drivers, the Somali pirates. Okay.
They're doing like burnout.
Yeah, it's not good.
And I'll just say, when you look back, when you zoom out and you just see this whole thing happen, really what's going to happen is the real truck drivers, the American truck drivers, are going to be affected because there's going to be a time when all these, the EVs happen. There's going to be that time when, look at these stats, look how many people died from trucks. They have to all be automated, and now our biggest economy, it's all going to go away.
Yeah, no, that truck drivers, that's cool.
And then we're lotless. What are they going to do?
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah, look, I've spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time touring the lot lizards are not something that you want that to stop. That's an end. That's a conviction. You want to put an end to that. I promise you. But no, to your point, there, the driverless truckers, that's coming regardless. It doesn't matter. I mean, that is going to be something in the future. I imagine within 20 years, there will be some person that submits a bill that says we need to outlaw human beings driving.
Under the pretense of what he's saying, and it's these people who shouldn't even be in the country in the first place, who don't know how to drive in the first place, and then they use that as the pretense to get these driverless trucks and destroy an industry that should remain for American white workers.
The craziest thing is California, Gavin used to be the first person to blame a red state when there was a shooting and be like, oh, their gun laws are the reason that this happened.
Yeah.
And then they're issuing CDLs like it's like a library card. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's really cool. Excuse me. The whole speaking English to your point earlier about not being able to read the signs and stuff like that. That's a point that we made on the show, 6 months ago, and it actually happened to be right before Trump said that he was making an executive order. It's one of the things that I think would be really important is to do all that we can to make sure that the federal government doesn't produce any paperwork or any kind of form in any other language other than English, And if you can't fill out the form yourself, not with an aid provided by the federal government, but if you can't fill out the form yourself, well, that means that you can't get whatever job or assistance it is that you're trying to get.
And companies like Uber need to be fined for allowing illegals to drive Americans, because I recently, well, I already knew that was a widespread issue, and oftentimes, like, they have a citizen make an account, and then their whole, like, family of illegals is using it. And I had an Uber driver recently who I was directing when I showed up at the location. I was like, can you turn left over there? And he literally didn't know the words right and left. He was like, I was like, do you speak English? He was like, no, mommy.
What was your lie? He was hitting on you?
He didn't know right and left. So, yeah, people are gonna die because of this. Also, there was time to prevent this. There was time to prevent the automation of these jobs. I remember several years ago, like many years before this was really a popular conversation, I think Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro were having a discussion about the automation of truck driving jobs. And Tucker was basically on the side of, like, we need to regulate before these jobs get replaced. And then Ben Shapiro basically said, well, that's just capitalism, baby. That's creative destruction. We used to have to accept it.
What a surprise.
Well, which is a better option? Having a bunch of immigrants that can't speak English and can't read the road signs, or having trucks that actually can follow the road signs? Which is better? I mean, it's clearly better to have automation as opposed to.
It's not really. That's a false dichotomy. We can get rid of them. I thought everyone was talking about how we can just do things and like we're not doing anything.
I mean, we are going to have this crunch as the population declines. Like, there is a shortage of truckers. There has been a shortage of truckers for a long time. And then, as time goes on, we're going to have massive shortages of these industries. And from the government's perspective, they need, just tax recuperation purposes. We have two options, really. Automation, that can hopefully increase wages for, jobs that are still out there, or you flood the country with the third world.
In the third world, people are net cost on the welfare system, though.
I agree, but they're never going to the government's never going to learn their lesson.
Regardless of
the entire West has voted year after year. Every Western country you go, they vote for less immigration, and it never happened.
Regardless of what option what other option you get, I will take automation over flooding the country with third world immigrants every single time, without a question.
I would take that, but in the ideal world, we would get something happening that would be in the next 3 years. We absolutely just round up every single person. And everyone always says, "Oh no, I want to get the criminals out." But a lot of these people, they're not criminals.
I have a better idea.
You're working.
I have a better idea than rounding people up.
To penalize the company.
Make it illegal to rent to people that are, and if you own a company and you hire illegals, you lose your company.
You're absolutely right.
And that's something that
dry up and they would leave.
Democrats say all the time, why don't we ever go after the companies? And they're right.
Yes,
all right, absolutely right. We should absolutely, and I've been saying this on the show for a while. Go after the person that owns this company, that hired this truck driver. He should lose his company. All of his trucks should be auctioned off to his competitors.
He should share the consequences.
He should go to jail
for that, for the absolute carnage.
Yeah,
even worse than jail. Should be sent to India just for like a day.
But I mean,
for one day.
Yeah, I'd be like solitary.
But no, because the thing is, you talk about rounding people up, and if you have people having to deal with, if you have Karen watching ICE rounding up Miguel, she's gonna freak out, right? She's gonna say, "Oh, you're doing these terrible things." So the real compassionate option is make it so incredibly hard for illegal immigrants that are here to stay here. Make sure they can't find a job. Make sure they can't find a place to live. If you make it incredibly hard for them to live here, then they will leave. And that's the best option. So you don't have to have ICE fighting with people. You don't have to have videos of ICE rounding people up, put up on the internet, and then go after the ICE agents and stuff. That it's just the smartest and most clean way to do it. What do you think?
Great idea is penalizing the companies. I agree with that, but it's not mutually exclusive with what the Trump voters were promised. And what was it, $150 billion given to ICE in the bill?
Yes.
For what? To move these people, to take them and move them out of the country.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't have people rounded up. What I'm saying is that if you actually want to get rid of all of the people,
Yes.
the 10, 20 million.
In a way that will last longer than just his current term. Yes.
Yeah, that will, if you pass legislation that says if you hire illegals or you rent a place to live to an illegal, you risk losing your property.
I'm just saying it's not mutually exclusive, and the time to deport people is way before the midterms, which is why I was so frustrated with people saying it's only been 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. It's only been this long. Like, you have to start immediately.
Every day.
Because
And for the record,
basically, as soon as the calendar year ends, the only thing anybody's going to be thinking about is the midterms.
then everyone gets like.
You can't deport anyone, but we're already not deporting anyone.
I actually, for the record, you talk about the ICE videos. I kind of like the videos, where they're all screaming and they're going.
And it's like, this is another thing.
I voted for that.
Trump cares way too much. He pays way too much attention to the media.
I mean,
What is he so afraid of?
I understand what you're saying, but you're not thinking about the perspective of people that are in Washington and how the actual process is done. Right? Like I would.
They're like, well,
it would
the
be great.
compassionate option, so that Karens don't see these videos that make them cry, is for us to do this. Well, the more compassionate option is having compassion toward the American people.
I mean,
that's.
Well, it's like look, the American people are going to
They've been
vote for
grieved.
the American people don't like to see that. That's why I'm saying to not have those videos go up, because that will make people that are a little on the queasy side when they see people get wrapped up, that will make them change their opinion. And you don't want them to change their opinion. You want to get the people out. The most important thing is getting the illegals to leave. And the best way to make sure that you can get the illegals to leave is to not have those videos up, because then you'll have people say, ooh, I don't want to see that. I'll go vote for the Democrat because that hurt my feelings. You don't want that. Like, that's the reason why you don't want those videos going up. And whether or not, like, I know that you don't have that same kind of queasiness, and people around here don't have that same kind of queasiness, but there are a lot of people that do, and they're swing voters. So if they're swing voters and they're the ones that are queasy, you need to make sure that they don't lose the stomach for this. And the best way to do that is to not have videos of ICE agents wrapping people up.
To his point, they could have avoided the high school graduations. They could have avoided those. That was not the best.
I mean, it's true.
There's something to be said about that flooding the zone, though, where it's like you just go crazy, like just really go like mask off the first few months, like go to the high schools, like just throw like random kids in bed and stuff. Because it's like then by the time the midterm, seriously, no, hear me out.
Yeah, the cycle changes.
Because by the time the midterms come, like Rogan's already thrown his fit and everything, and then it's like then we're good. Like everyone's at ease. Everyone's like.
And everyone always says when they see the video, they always say, "Well, I really want the deportations. Let's start with the criminals." And they say, "Okay, start." So you're right. Yeah. So you know what? Yeah. Well, in the first 2 months, 3 months, they should have flooded the zone, beat the shit out of everybody, deported them out as viciously as possible. And the attention span of these Karens are so short that they would forget all about that and be mad about whatever the Democrats.
I think they're doing it to some degree, because it's like there was this video yesterday of some guy in DC getting dragged out of his car, and like the libs freaked out for like a few hours, and then of course he was a pedophile. Obviously, this happens all the time. But it's like I'm seeing the reaction. Yeah, you're not seeing as many kill mars now. You're not seeing as strong a reaction to the left. I think there's an aspect where they're demoralized, like that's 100% true. But I think there also is an aspect where the average American, like people like Joe Rogan's, the guys that came out early and were really upset about the deportations, they're kind of like whatever. They're used to it now. Their stomachs have adjusted, because like the reality is Americans are very vibes-based people. Like, okay, yes, polling-wise, Americans want mass deportations, but also Americans don't want to watch videos like Bill's saying of people getting thrown around. And so it's like the only way to really do it is rip the Band-Aid, flood the zone. And I think that is actually what's happening. I think we're past the kill mars. I don't think we're gonna get many of those stories anymore.
I don't think that any of us around the table are arguing about what needs to be done or what should happen. It's just a matter of how it's going to be done and the velocity, apparently, how fast it's going to happen. And to be honest with you, look, I don't know exactly the details about how funding works. The argument that you heard from Capitol Hill was that the big beautiful bill needed to be passed because the funding was in it. They didn't have the money to pay ICE to do this stuff. And if that's the case, then nothing could be done before that was passed. And
When did the big beautiful bill pass?
4 weeks ago, a month ago.
It was July 4th. After July 4th, so it's been over a month. We got $150 billion now, so it should be
We are seeing. I mean, they're opening up massive complexes every week now. I mean, we've seen there's 2 in Florida now. Nebraska, they're building a massive one in Indiana. So the bed space is increasing. They're ramping up. Like the deportations are finally starting to head north
Why do
again.
they need beds? Like, just take them and you have a plane.
You do have the process. I mean, I hate it. I wish you could just build a slingshot and launch them. You have to process them. You got to figure out who they are, what their names are, like where they're from. And that requires bed space to detain them for a temporary amount of time. And then also now you see a proposal, like there was a story, I think it was NBC News today, where Kirsty Noem is exploring just buying planes outright because contracting these planes, chartering these planes, is very expensive. It's like if we just had our own fleet, we could be,
It's great.
Make sure you sell her a watch and she can buy a shit.
Look, if she buys the planes, you know that she's gonna be wearing a captain's outfit when she buys them.
Oh, I love it.
Whatever she has to do.
And holding a rifle.
We're going to jump to this story because it's basically the same topic here. From the AP, Trump administration is reviewing all 55 million foreigners with U.S. visas for any violations. Washington. The Trump administration said Thursday it is reviewing more than 55 million people who have valid U.S. visas for any violations that could lead to deportation, part of a growing crackdown on foreigners who are permitted to be in the United States. In a written answer to the question from the Associated Press, the State Department said all U.S. visa holders, which can include tourists from many countries, are subject to continuous vetting with an eye towards any indication they could be ineligible for permission to enter or stay in the United States. Should such information be found, the visa will be revoked, and if the visa holder is in the United States, he or she would be subject to deportation. The U.S. will also stop issuing worker visas for commercial truck drivers. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said on Thursday on X, he said the change was effective immediately. So the fact that there are 55 million visa
Who knows that many? Like, it should be 5,000.
It is.
We all found out this afternoon. Did you see the timeline this afternoon when this story dropped? And everyone was like, 55 million.
Think about this: 55 million foreigners with visas, right? And then an additional 20 million that are here illegally in the past 4 years. So 75 million people. There's only 335
We're almost at a third of the country.
Yeah, 335 million people. And also, this is how they figure out apportionment for Congress. They'll count all of those people. I'd be willing to bet anything that they're counting visa holders. Maybe they don't count people that are here on a tourist visa, right? But if you're here on any kind of green card or anything like that, you get counted for the census. These people are not Americans, and and to say that they only dilute the voting power a little bit, that is a ridiculous assertion now because there's 75 million of them.
And Democrats will say outright they want these people to count in the census.
Yeah.
That's when they stack them up. Everyone's like, I love the Democrats. They love the inner city blacks. But what do? Where do they put the illegals when they come into the country? They build beds for them in the gymnasiums in like inner city Brooklyn, and they start throwing them to stay there. So you'd say, all right, why are the Democrat politicians pissing off their voting base by putting these illegals like in the gymnasiums of the schools where their voters send their kids? And it's because they just want to use those census numbers. Yeah, school census numbers. And when you do that, it also impacts census, and it impacts the congressional districts, how many districts you have. And these Democrat politicians would rather have smaller, concentrated liberal districts, more districts of that, because for them it's about their votes in Washington. It's not about serving constituents or anything like that. So that, I think, the Electoral College, the Electoral College also has a weight based on population as well. So the Electoral College has a weight on that. So they want to tilt it. That's why they fight for it. That's why they don't care about their own voters when they throw in the illegals into those inner cities.
I mean, the whole point is to affect the makeup of Congress, and that is to dilute the voting power and political power of the existing Americans, the American people that are born here, the people that are citizens, the people that have the right to be here, and that have the right to say, we object to this. We don't want you to do this. And that's a big part of why Donald Trump was elected, because the American people don't want this. They understand. Even if they didn't understand the technical way that they were doing, the actual method that was being used to dilute their power, they understood that it was happening, and they have for a long time. I think that's why you had such a turnout for Donald Trump. This is an absolute travesty, and I think that the Trump administration shouldn't just review people that have any violations. Like if they have even the smallest violation, if they have traffic ticket, you go, because this is a problem for the voting population of the American people. It's not just, these, if they're good, that's okay. No, these people are getting counted on the census, and they attack Congress. So these people need to go.
Well, not just that, like they just changed America. Yeah. Like we didn't vote on this. We want America to be American. We want it to be culturally American. And they do this thing, like even Republicans, they'll concede that it's bad on political grounds. They're like, okay, yes, this is okay, I'll vote you. But it's like, I think it's perfectly valid as an American, and as an American that has family here going back hundreds of years, to be a little concerned that there's 75 million foreigners here. I didn't want this. None of us did. So it's like, and I'm tired of being gaslit. Like it's a totally irrelevant conversation to have of like the cultural makeup of my country.
It also is that no matter what you do, it'll never change because Republicans make this happen. I mean, Democrats, but Republicans too, because this system was built over the last 40 years by Republicans and Democrats. So no matter who you elect, no matter what they say, vote for me or do this. They say like that.
And it's the problem for me is no matter where from your country like protesting about anything in another country. So something like this, where they're reviewing all this stuff, I'm sick of seeing protesters who aren't from this country. This is that thing. This will help that.
It is, and it's, I mean, because people come here and they impose their will on the I mean, there's a huge difference between like the initial settlers that come to this country, or even the waves of immigrants, leading up to the Ellis Island wave. Post Ellis Island, post the World Wars, the stock of immigrants coming are completely different. They're coming here without the intention of assimilating. They're coming here with the intention of changing the country. And in all fairness, the people who are letting them come into the country, given that command, they're saying, "You enrich us. Like your culture's enriching. We want your culture here." And you're just saying, "Well, what's wrong with American culture? What are we losing by not having a bunch of people from India and Mexico or the Philippines here?" It's like, no, we're actually a pretty great country. And they're doing the same thing with the Europeans on steroids. Yeah, where they're just actively telling people in English. Actually, there's no such thing as ethnic Englishmen. Like anyone can be English.
They're like the pest in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, the stuff that's going on in the UK is pretty objectionable to most anybody. And you see it in the English correction responders. They're starting to put up English flags. And for a long time in my life, I remember hearing from my friends from Europe and stuff, they were like, "Don't you guys think it's a little silly how many American flags you have put up? Don't you think it's a little silly?" And they thought it was a little on the crass side. And I was like, "Nah, man, I've got a 13 colonies flag from here to here." It's like, just because you lost them. Yeah, But now I think that there are a lot of people in Europe that are starting to see the value of believing in their nation, believing in their country.
The immigration situation in the UK is dissimilar to ours in that it's more starkly a cultural difference because the immigrants are largely Muslim. The cultural differences are far more noticeable. You could say that Mexican culture and American culture are less dissimilar than Muslim countries in the UK. It is a racial issue more so in the US, and the mandate has been extremely clear from 2016. I believe 9 out of 10 people who voted for Trump in 2016 are white people. And the message was very clear. Maybe you don't understand the intricacies of how businesses influence the issue, but they're tired of interacting with them. They're tired of interacting with foreigners on a daily basis. They're ornery and rude and inconsiderate.
I thought these were like people who were fleeing oppression and seeking asylum, but they come back like the only place.
Well, that speaks to the difference in culture, though. The way what is considered polite here is just not considered polite in different cultures. And
I do believe it's because they're interacting with Americans.
Yeah.
They behave
They definitely
nature.
they size you up, and like she's saying, I mean, they brought 50 white South Africans in, and I mean, you would have thought we imported the entirety of Taliban. Like the way that the leftist media reacted just made it so obvious that it's actually there is a racial component. And they made it very obvious. They played their hand when that happened. For the longest time, they were denying it. No, they're just looking for a better life. And that came out like, oh, actually, we just hate white people, and we would really like to just breed you out of existence. That's what happened.
I think the symbolism there is all of the flags are European flags. So none of the flags have their own identity anymore. Anywhere you go in Europe, they're flying European flag. My flag should be. I said, I'm an organization.
actually getting in trouble for it too. There's a pushback from the government itself saying,
vandalize this precious pothole.
well, I don't think that it's about the potholes. When people are actually flying regular flags, but they're like, you should take that down because it's culturally insensitive. And the idea that you wouldn't be able to fly your country's flag in your own country because it might insult someone that is in your country, living off your country's largesse, living off your benefits and stuff that's ridiculous to me. But in the UK, that's honestly, that's the norm. That's the way that it is.
And you could just not leave your house and just tweet something, and then you get sentenced to 2 years.
The guy, wasn't there a guy, he got sent to the UK where he said, I don't want my kids getting raped by these, whatever.
Grooming people.
And they gave him, what was that?
The grooming people in the UK.
And he got sentenced to 20 months in jail.
Oh, it happens all the time.
Well, they put like 30,000 people a year in jail. It's Facebook. It's great.
And what you're saying, it's actually kind of there actually is some truth to what everyone's saying over there, which is yes, flying the St. George's flag, the English flag, that actually is hostile towards what is currently the ideology of the United Kingdom's government. It does actually say that. It's like identifying with your English heritage and culture is a rebellion against the current status.
Actually, that's great. To this point, put that up, sir. This is great. You look; these guys are wearing masks in order to fly the flag of England. That is absurd.
Because it is. If you're the government, this is horrifying. Seeing people actually identify and be proud of who they are. That's terrifying if you're a bureaucrat.
Actually, let's go back and start from the beginning. Look at all, like you see all these people that are starting to fly flags. And this, again, I've been to the UK, I think 13 or 14 times in my life, and I've never seen anyone flying the English flag. I would once in a while I'd see the Union Jack, but I would never see the English flag. And there was a time where this just didn't happen. And again, this was not that long ago. Last time I was in the UK was 2019. And you wouldn't see this, but this is actually it's actually something that's very positive for the country. They're actually standing up for themselves. But it does kind of shock me that you have to wear a mask in order to fly your own country's flag.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, if they can't succeed there, I mean, the UK does always feel to some degree their tenure there in the United States in a lot of ways. I mean, like Brexit was a really good indicator of how the Trump election was going to go. Just like a lot of people see this in the audience, like I really like say, well, that's England, or say, oh, well, that's Canada, or that's Australia. Like these things. History, there is a big difference. The United States is obviously a nice culture to are in the Anglosphere, but it is worth keeping an eye on because those trends do affect us to some degree, and we are struggling with the same issue. I mean, Mary noted, okay, the immigration to the UK is culturally far different. We get to Pakistani stuff, we're most American, historically speaking, but it still is fundamentally the same issue. And the issue now, the question for guys, Charlie Durkin is asking this. He's saying, what is an American? Same thing. What is it?
Yeah, and I think people are articulating that simply acquiring a legal citizenship in the U.S. does not make you American.
Paperwork Americans.
Yeah. So I mean, like, look, I think the United States is different from England, from the UK, from Wales. I do think that the United States doesn't have the same kind of history that the UK does, or that England does. England is it's 1,000 years old, right? Like it's got deep history, and there are English people that are English. There aren't the way that Americans are Americans. They're American. They're born here, but it's not that there is a racial component to it. You can say that there is a history that Americans share, and that paperwork Americans aren't the real Americans. But if you are from another country and you come here, you do actually have the opportunity to become American. But it's more about, do you believe the things that Americans believe? Right? If you come here and you're just coming here because you want to get some kind of benefit or whatever, or you're just looking for a job, I don't think that person should be allowed to just come in and have the power. But if you believe in things like, the foundational principles that made America, property rights, and things like that, then I think landscapes, I'm fine with it. Because again, we don't have the kind of history where we can say, oh, we have a racial basis of our country.
No, that's not true. The country was 90% white.
Yeah. We should New York City. New York City up until, what was it, the post World War II? It was like 95%.
But you'll still
now it's 28%.
You still get the arguments. You still get arguments about what the white person is, because Irish and Italians weren't considered white. There's the idea about wasps. Seriously, like you can give me the eyes, but it's true, and that's.
We know what's not. We know it's not American. Like we can start there and then kind of close it up, like define it.
Also, just because it's a construct that was normalized because there were so many different European ethnicities in one place doesn't mean that the construct is meaningless. It is meaningful.
With the argument about Europeans, that would mean that Mexicans are just as white as any Americans.
We know what a Mexican is. But we know what a Mexican is too.
The Spanish are just as white. The European Spanish are just as white as Italians or Southern French.
Okay, correct. Mexicans are not ethnically the same makeup as Spaniards.
They're very similar. What? How many?
Like 40% indigenous.
Is it that much with Mexicans?
Basically half and half.
But even still, there's not a simple way to say what a white person.
Cartels in the U.S. rolling heads and cutting people's tongues out like Aztecs. Are you surprised by that?
No, those people should get bombs dropped on their head. But look, if you're actually going to be if you're killing people, the government should wrap you up and throw you in jail. Obviously, that's not.
You're saying it's not a coincidence.
Yeah. And also, we have to be realistic with immigration policy in the 21st century because, I had Nathan Howard on the morning show 2 or 3 days ago. He made a really great point, which is the way an immigrant matriculates into American society now in 2025 is vastly different than 1935. Because in 1935, you got a vote. There's a good chance it's the last time you're ever going to see right here. Versus now, when you come here, you have your phone, your internet, you're watching TV in your native tongue from your country, you're talking to your family all the time. The digital age makes it very difficult for an immigrant to properly.
You notice immigrants are on the phone all the damn time.
They always have FaceTime.
They're on FaceTime all day.
And that's part of the reason they can never properly assimilate. So it's I would say
they don't want to assimilate, and they don't assimilate. And I think it was even in the 70s and 80s, New York City was 60, 70%. I just don't understand how it's dropped so dramatically. 70, 80, 90% white through the 70s, 80s to now it's in the 20s, the mid 20s.
If you look at the demographics.
To divorce American identity from a racial identity is
I agree.
If you look at the demographics of the Bronx over the last 100 years, you thought we lost the war and got it's crazy.
I thought we won the war.
Yeah, what's going on?
We didn't win.
We lost in the Dominican Republic? How?
Yeah.
You can't even beat Haiti.
We've been kicked out the Italians. Yeah.
No, it's 100% true. It is there is to downplay the European contribution to the United States or really the European foundation of the United States is just a massive disservice to everyone.
That's why I mentioned earlier that 90% of Trump's voters in 2016 were white voters. The message was very clear. We're white people. We have this candidate who is promising us he will remove these foreigners who do not look like us from the country and build a wall so he can make sure that they don't come back. And that's what they voted for. And they didn't get that in 2016. They didn't get what they were promised. It sounds like up until now, because they're not getting deported.
Well, I mean,
mass deportations are not going to happen. They're not happening. They're not going to happen.
I don't know that they're not going to happen. I don't think that they're going to be deported just based on race. They're not going to.
Of course, they're not. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that what white voters were voting for in 2016, being 9 out of 10 of Trump's base, they were voting for people who are culturally and ethnically dissimilar to them to get removed, and also for them to stay away.
Yeah, the point that I'm making is that isn't gonna that's not happening. That's not going to happen. I don't think that Donald Trump is ever actually offering it.
But look what activated this campaign in 2024. I mean, going to the energy in the Trump campaign was starting to struggle a little bit going fall into the election, or summer into the election around the debates, and then Springfield, Ohio, right? There's an anon on Twitter says there's a video of the body of cat, and that overnight Trump skyrocketed in the polls back to where he was. So it's
it was great.
Yeah, so it's there is this feeling among Americans that it's our country is starting to look very foreign and very unfamiliar, and that causes a lot of
And
anxiety.
Gary's point is that is directly associated with the whiteness and the Europeanness of
The prior
and that's a very fair point.
And it's not, and like what she's saying, what we're saying is not ridiculous at all. Because it's like, I would expect someone in like in Haiti to feel this way, right? I would expect someone in China to feel
People
this
in
way.
Haiti don't have time to feel like this.
Well, I mean, they got
running away from other people.
Maybe Haiti, but like in China or Japan or Saudi Arabia, like they have the right to like be like, yeah, I'd like my country to
stay.
still here. Yeah.
Every other country talks like that.
Except Western ones.
Except for Western countries. I don't think that I would consider Haiti a Western country.
Barbecue. You know, when you think Socratic method, you think
Barbecue. I mean, Haiti guy.
Haiti guy.
Haiti's about as much of a nomadic basket case country as you can
I like Maryland.
They can't even build a bridge, man.
And the dogs and cats was the best part of the Trump campaign.
And I remember how low energy it was starting to feel. And I'm the biggest MAGA guy. Like I'm pretty much a shill for the admin. And I remember going in like it was like, oh, this Kamala hot sauce is gonna work. And then that happens, and everyone like remembered. They were like, this is what MAGA is about: is making America, taking it, making it great again. And we want to see Haitians eating. If you're from the Midwest and you're from a small town, you've seen this happen. Like my family, I'm not gonna say which town, but it's kind of Illinois, and it was swap. You go there now, and there's no one left, and they were hot swap for these people. From, like, you don't know where they're going.
And the cats are gone too.
The cats are gone. And it wasn't.
And we got barbecue.
All right, we're going to jump to this story from ABC. Trump joins police military in D.C. as he pushes deployment in more cities. President Donald Trump joined police and military in Washington, D.C. on Thursday to oversee the surge in federal law enforcement and National Guard who are responding to what he says is a crime emergency in the district. Trump left the White House in the presidential limousine named the Beast with U.S. Attorney General Pam Bondi, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller Thursday afternoon, and were driven to the U.S. Park Police Anacostia Operations Facility in Southeast D.C. There he spoke with law enforcement members and military personnel and touted the deployment. It's great to be with you. You guys are doing a fantastic job, and gals doing an amazing job. He told the crowd who he said were a healthy, attractive looking group of people. It was not immediately clear that Trump would actually walk the streets full of police and military personnel. The president mobilized the National Guard 1 week ago to assist the police, claiming crime was out of control. Officials have said that Guard personnel are not making arrests, only helping to detain people quickly if necessary before any law enforcement. Violent crime levels have decreased compared to years prior, down 26% since 2024, a 30-year low according to crime stats released by the city's Metropolitan Police Department. Every single person that I hear talking about this that actually dives a little deeper into these kind of numbers is like, this is all BS. The idea that crime is down is BS. It was just last month, I think someone was fired or put on leave for faking numbers coming out of DC. People don't report crime the way that they used to because crimes are not being, no one's getting arrested, and if people do get arrested, they get released again because you have bad DAs and bad people, bad judges. So the idea that they're actually at a 30-year low, people don't buy it. Even if it is lower, people don't believe that it's at a 30-year low. They don't feel that. You see that in the response that people are having to Trump's use of the National Guard. This is extremely popular with the American people, particularly the people in D.C. You see people putting up TikToks and videos and stuff all the time saying they feel like they can go to the gas station and they're not going to get their stuff stolen. They feel like they can drive around with their window open and no one's going to try and jack their car. So do you guys think that this is just a stunt, Donald Trump walking out there, or do you think this is something good where he's actually being on the ground with people that are actually enforcing the law? What's your take on the law?
I think we must deputize this man. Donald Trump must be deputized.
Yeah, let him shoot one person.
Yeah.
They shot him. Can he shoot one person?
Just one. It would send a message.
He deserves so many people. They're
Right.
like, if you're in jail in and out more than like 15 times, you really aren't any value to society or during the system. Let him shoot one.
Just one. It's not even that big of a deal. They don't even notice the gun. They don't even notice the gun. Also, even if the people in DC weren't okay with this, like, who cares? Because we're sick and tired of our cities being like total dumps, and the people living there, the reason they're total dumps is like, even if they were like, everyone was in total
racist thing I've ever seen. So it's racist that you're curbing the ability for black people to kill each other and then any other race of people and just shoot each other in the street. So that's the racist part of it. So it's just rocket versus baseball.
Almost considering walking around DC at night.
You should.
I might do it.
Well, it's funny that they that like the left, the left's hypocritical. No, shocking. But that they made like the most overt racist statement out of anyone in the last week, where they were like, hey, the crime in Baltimore and DC and Memphis is pretty bad, and they're like, that's so racist to point that out. And it's like, these are the blackest cities in America. Like, you made that point, not me.
Some white guy who lives in DC made another one of these TikToks about it, and he was on a run at night around DC and was talking about his observations. I have no idea if it was true because he didn't provide evidence, but he said that when he saw some of the militarized police on a street corner, I saw this black mother walking with her son, and she said to her son, hold my hand, sweetie. You don't want them to get any bad ideas. You don't want any trouble with these guys.
What? The black mother said that to her son?
Her son, who he said was 12 years old or something. Like they're just about to start randomly arresting black people for walking on the streets. Literally walking while black.
It's a lot of Rosa Parks at our time.
Well, wait till the Trump drive-by starts.
You know about the Rosa Parks. About that.
He had a car?
He might have had a car.
What are we
Rosa
doing?
Parks might have had a car. I don't know.
Very well be on.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
You know, to Mary's point, that notion is what fueled an entire summer of riots in the country. Like when George Floyd was killed, the argument that people were making was, black people are getting, gunned down in the streets by police. And even people like LeBron James was saying they're out here hunting us.
Yeah.
This was a total fabrication. I mean, it's true. He said it, and it's a total fabrication. And that's what the justification was for an entire summer of looting, burning cities, destroying property, and people realized, too late, of course, that it was BS, and that's why there's been such a backlash, or that's why so many people have stopped caring about things like Black Lives Matter. Everyone saw what kind of scam that was. The money that the people that were running it stole. All you had to do is say that you were giving your money to Black Lives Matter, or you had some Black Lives Matter affiliated organization, and you could run ads, and people were just scamming the crap out of everybody.
But yeah, the money that was going to BLM was going to non-binary homeless shelters or something. It's just so insane.
It was all garbage, and it ended up going in just going in people's pockets, like the people that were the leaders. Colors. They had mansions and multiple homes and stuff in LA and stuff, and it's like that kind of idea is still around, and it's something that honestly it needs to be remedied, and you can't just stamp it out. You know what I mean? You can't just be like, you can't beat people up over the head and be like, you're wrong, this isn't the way. They just dig their heels in. But that attitude is something that comes with all the DEI stuff, with all of the critical race theory stuff, the stuff that Donald Trump is taking out of the Smithsonian, all the stuff that they're taking out of the museums. We talked about this the other day, the whiteness stuff, the idea that white people are evil and after black people and stuff. It's a ridiculous idea, but it's what fuels it fueled Ferguson back in 2013. It fueled the George Floyd riots, and it's a literal cancer in this country. These ideas are a literal cancer that will destroy this country.
The biggest enslavers of black people are black people. So I mean, that's so they on themselves. I actually like what Trump's doing. I think that's absolutely. I think that it sets a message of what he's doing in DC. I like what he's doing in DC because it's the only city where you can instantly do it. New York City's about the hell. But if you take the cities that try to fight, they try to do elections, Republicans maybe win one out of every 10 times, these, blue cities. But in DC, you can kind of just do it. And it's always, all right, it's a city, we can do it, so let's just do it. And I think it's good.
I remember, I think it was during 2020, during the riots, when they would have these big Instagram posts where they would be it was mostly black celebrities,
334 million. 12 or 13 black people that are unarmed are shot.
Yeah, and then you have LeBron James with a book that he never read. He will not read.
Perpetually on.
That's kind of relatable, though. I'm a pretty informative reader. That's relatable with Arrow, my matcha, and my book that I don't have.
And him going to the Diddy parties was not relatable. So
Definitely not at all.
definitely not relatable.
Here's what I can't get over about 2020 though, is just why didn't Trump crack down on it? I still voted against him.
I don't think that Trump was aware, because I don't. Well, okay.
I don't think Trump was aware that people were rioting in every major city.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about something.
I was wondering why wouldn't he crack down on the militarized police or the National Guard then?
Well, because he didn't.
It was a rare Trump L.
Yeah, there's just no excuse for it.
The
He
argument-
maybe thought this is going to make the left look so bad that I'll win.
I was told that that's what I've heard, that he was told by many people that this is just making it really good.
I think that was part of it.
And not that that's a good answer.
I mean, I guess they were going to defeat those people regardless, but still.
That's why he's cracking down.
Yeah, he's learned his lesson.
Such bad advice. And to be honest with you, like, I don't know who was in his ear, his first presidency, but it was not a situation. Trump was totally unprepared for winning in 2016, and he brought on terrible people. And thankfully, the 4 years that he had, when he was not the president, he learned a lot, and he listened to people, and he talked to people that were not insiders, that actually had a wise view of how things work in Washington, not an inside view that was looking to benefit themselves.
What's the easiest way to put a spring back in your step? Finding the perfect mattress at Mancini Sleepwell. During their holiday sale, save up to $1,200 on select tender adjustable sets. See every purchase is backed by a Prestige bonus. Guaranteed best price at 365 nights. Guaranteed winner warranty and free next day delivery. You will be better sleep with.
16 versus 2024, 2020 rather, in 2024. I think he just sent in the National Guard into LA. I don't know, he didn't go through the process. Last time he was, I guess, being told that he couldn't do it. I totally thought he should have done what he did in LA and just quelled it immediately, because nobody deserves to live in a city that's getting burned down. But he didn't. But I guess in LA he learned his lesson. He was in better in LA because he just didn't listen. He just started to say that don't care.
And look, the amount of actual contact that the National Guard had to have with the population in LA was almost none. You didn't see National Guardsmen actually fighting the crowd. It was the police, and the National Guard were just there making sure that the police could do their jobs. I don't remember seeing any video of dudes in multicam fighting with dudes. Hardly ever. There were a handful of times where they had gas masks and they had shields, but it wasn't like they were holding people down. They were just preventing the rioters from attacking the police. They weren't wrapping people up at all.
That would have been
great.
That would have been really popular on the base if you did that. I mean, the anger during the LA riots, the reason why was so powerful. Yeah, you would speak to just your average Trump voter, and they were furious. They were like, no, we are so tired of that. And like, just please crack down. We wanted to see like Stephen Miller deployed like National Guard. Like that's what we want. That's what the base.
That's what the base wants. I understand that, but that's not good optics. I know that's not a popular thing to say around this table tonight. But the fact of the matter is, those things do matter, because if you lose public support, you don't have the ability to do anything. You listen, Donald Trump, as long as he's got public support, he can do whatever he wants. And I think that Barack Obama was an example of that. He had public support, and he got away with all kinds of stuff that
He got away with that in being born here.
Literally.
But that's to my point. If you have popular support, the president can get away with all kinds of things, but you have to do it in a smart way that keeps the popular support. If you just do things that's unpopular with the American people will turn against you, and then you can't do anything. That's just the truth. I know that there are people that wanted to be Darth Vader and come out and do all this stuff, and I get it, because that's what I would like to see. But that doesn't function in reality.
I mean, in the way that affects his current term, or the way that affects electability for the next Republican?
The way that it affects the people, the people on the street. You like, if he did something that was really beyond the pale, there would be enough people in the street to make it look like he's done something that the whole of the country doesn't like. And I mean, he would lose support. He's got like 52% approval rating now. If he got down to 35%, like, he wouldn't be able to do anything that he does. He would get protests and people out on the street, and that would also motivate and inspire the left. I mean, that's a problem.
You do have to seize to a certain degree because the left is completely demoralized right now. They have no leadership, they don't know what's going on. And then also the USA money's dried up, so like half of their mechanisms they can't even use right now. And so it's like, and I do think Trump is doing a great job of this, but it is like, yes, now is the time to execute, now is the time to start playing the gas, because like you said, this window, you know, knock on wood, what if we lose the midterms? Now we're dead in the water.
Again, this is not me disagreeing with any of the points that you guys have made, or having like some kind of strong disagreement about what should be done. I'm just trying to talk about the reality of the situation and how things have to be, how things have to work in the United States. I know you don't, Mary.
Ruining the fun. The reality is actually that Democrats are going to almost certainly win a majority in the House midterms.
That's why he should be
They
on
are
the redistricting.
attempt impeachment, no matter what he does.
That's why the redistricting battle like matters, because if we can't pick off 6 to 8 seats, I think that keeps your House majority. It's like, I mean, you are correct. Like as it stands right now, there is like better than nothing chance that like a Democrat retake the House. So that's why we need to get this.
Not better than nothing. I mean, in my mind, it's like
Over 50.
I'm a little worried about it because to your point, if you look at what's going on right now in the Senate, like their Senate's in recess, everybody's in recess for the summer, and they're calling these, like, I don't know what they call them, there's a name for it, Oklahoma sessions or whatever, so Trump can't make recess appointments. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? So he has 160 plus people who have been appointed into very important spots that cannot get into the spots because they're waiting for their Senate confirmation. So Thune, who is the Senate leader, is calling these Oklahoma sessions. So Trump cannot make the recess appointment. So if the Congress, that's the Senate and House, is out for a certain amount of time, the president can appoint them for like 180 days or something. So that'd be great. But they're putting the House in session, the Senate, for a day or an hour or whatever, so Trump can't do it. Why isn't Trump freaking out about that? And are those the people who are going to be backing Trump when the Democrats take the House and try to punch him? Who's backing him up? How are we getting anything done in the last 2 years? Basically running until the end of this year, because when the election season starts, all these swing district Republicans are going to be massive pussies because they care about, winning the, R+1 or the D+2 that they hold. So we're not going to get things through. They're going to start talking mushy. It's going to become disjointed. So I think you make a great point.
Well, yeah, the House members are already freaking out over the Texas redistricting. Like Kevin Kiley, he's a congressman of California, Republican.
He's saying that for his own purpose.
Yeah, he's like losing his mind because like the national GOP trying to make a move and he's just trying to save his own seat. I'm like, we're just not locked in at all. I mean, it's like great that the Trump that like the House GOP is still plagued by the same problem like for a very long time, which is people look out for themselves and not for the country.
That's the problem. That's the problem. They're going to look out for themselves. They're going to look out for their constituencies. The problem, and part of the problem, is there's no reason for us to have federalized all of this crap that we do, all of this stuff that's nationwide and stuff. We are in a different world now than we were 250 years ago, but like the idea of having the same laws in Massachusetts and Florida and California, which is just ridiculous if you go by what the founders said. So I don't know that there is a solution, but we were talking about Donald Trump. We're going to jump to this story real quick. From Pennsylvania, DC goes a full week without a homicide after Trump turned president. Now, I don't know when the last time they went a whole week without a homicide, but I think that's good. For the first time in months, Washington, D.C. has gone 7 consecutive days without a homicide following President Donald Trump's federal takeover of the city's police force with the National Guard. The rare streak confirmed Wednesday comes during the summer season when homicide levels are typically at their highest. The last time the capital reported 0 killings for a full week was in March. Other crimes have also dropped sharply, according to the figures cited by the local police union. Robbery declined by 46% in the week after the federal control began. Carjackings fell 83%, and overall violent crime was down 22%. The crime freeze began the day after a fatal shooting in Logan Circle, which occurred just hours after Trump announced the move. At the time, Representative Eric Swalwell said on social media that Trump owns this. Critics have since noted that the statement could apply to the decline as well. Law enforcement saturation in high-crime areas has drawn comparisons to tactics used in New York City in the 1990s under then-Mayor Rudy Giuliani, when murders fell by more than half in his first term. Observers pointed out that the deployment of the National Guard outside D.C.'s Union Station will not spot homelessness and drug activity as an example of the report. I think that this is something that is just overall positive. I don't think there's a downside. You know, I don't think that there's anybody that can say, oh, here's the bad thing. I want the Democrats to keep complaining about it because it just reinforces the fact that they're totally unserious and actually have no policies to talk about other than Trump bad. But that's the same thing that they've been talking about for ages. There's only so many times that the American people can hear he's a threat to our democracy and actually think that it means something. They've definitely lost the swing voters. Trump's approval rating last I saw again was like 52 or something like that, which is sky high for Donald Trump and conservatives, especially in such a polarized time.
Yeah, I mean, this is just an example of how you can just do things. I mean, it's very obvious they've taken a page out of El Salvador here. I mean, El Salvador, when it was just like a total disaster, and people were just like, oh, you can just like end this. Like, crime is optional. In 2025,
it is a policy choice. Yes,
it is optional. The left loves crime because they love filth and they hate their fathers and they hate America. They hate themselves. They hate beauty. And what is more beautiful than the Union Station? Right? The Union Station is a very beautiful place, very dignified to take a train in the Union Station until you see homeless people pooping there. I mean, it looks like India. It's a total disaster. So it's like, no, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Have a clean, nice train station. The left hates this. The left hates all of this.
Violent criminals only understand the language of violence, and people, especially on the left, but more generally, have misgivings about criminality and what makes criminals criminals. They need to understand that violent criminals are ontologically criminals, and they will be criminals for the rest of their lives. That's who they are. That's what they are. They cannot be rehabilitated. They cannot be social worked into being functional human beings in society. That's just what they are, ontologically criminal, and they will never change. So they have to be dealt with fear and with violence, because it's the only thing they understand. It's the only thing they respond to.
We had seen that here in he's sexually retiring. And one of the things that I said to him was like, look, you know, tell me if I'm wrong, you know the actual bad actors in your area. If you're a police officer and you're patrolling the same area, they know exactly who the bad guys are. Yeah, exactly.
The real offense rate for violent crimes is 2.5.
Yeah, it's so the way to deal with crime is arrest those people and put them in jail. If you do that, you can actually get crime, even in poor places, because poverty does not drive crime, but crime does drive poverty. This is a point that Sean, what's his name? Actual Justice Warrior on YouTube. Shout out to Sean. What? Yeah, that's true. That's it. He makes this point all the time. If you have an area that is high crime, that will drive businesses out, that will drive investment out, that will drive all of the good things about a society out of the area. But if you go in and you take care of the crime, there is money to be made in providing low-cost housing to people that don't have a lot of money. There is money to be made in putting in, bodegas or shops for people that don't have a lot of money to go somewhere and buy the things that they need. But if you have a high-crime area, no one wants to invest because they're gonna lose their money. They're gonna lose their investment. Poverty does not drive crime, but crime does drive poverty. There are poor places all over the world that have lower crime rates than places like D.C. And they're poor, but they're not criminal because they're not inherently criminal people. And it doesn't take very much to actually wrap up the criminals and throw them in jail.
When you're dealing with a place like DC, someone's rights are going to get violated. It's either the criminals or it's the innocent people just trying to go for a walk and not get knocked over the head. So it's like if someone's rights are going to get violated, it should be the criminals. Sorry. I mean, it's unreal that we have to deal with this in the United States. You know, in every city where places like Baltimore and St. Louis and Memphis have crime rates equivalent, if not worse, I was actually looking at the stats, our violent crime rate in Baltimore is worse than Johannesburg, South Africa. Like, how is this tolerable? It's absolutely.
I mean, and the people in New York City, New York City, nobody takes the subway, for example, especially after a certain time, because they're worried about rising instances of people getting pushed on the tracks. So then they go, okay, I can't do the subway. They take the bus, do they drive and pay this congestion fee thing? So they're stuck without a choice. I say you're accepting the fact that the criminals are running the system. Like, you can't take the subway because you're worried about crime. You can't walk these blocks because you're worried about the crime. And they just keep voting for it, and the criminals are the ones running the system. And now people say, do I either pay the money, because New York City passed a congestion tax, so if you come into the city, you now pay $9 a day. So these people pay either $9 a day, or they can take the public transit. To take the public transit, they got to run the risk of getting violently assaulted, particularly at nighttime.
Who's that maniac that Jordan Neely? Yeah, that specifically showed me how the hilarity is that people like describe this deep, textured interior life to the criminal. He doesn't have.
He was Michael Jackson in person.
He only acts.
Yeah.
Like, the criminal only acts. He does not think. He doesn't premeditate. He just does.
And the criminal would absolutely obliterate any of the white liberals defending television.
He had mental health struggles. I don't know. What's he thinking when he threatens to murder everyone on the train? Like, I don't know. Like, I didn't have a good relationship with my father. Like, what do they ascribe to this man's interior life that they think this can be explained away with like childhood trauma or something?
Yeah, like what did they think he was missing in life? Like, how he ended up like this? Like, what do you think he got like, rejected for a job or something? Maybe he's a sensitive young man.
Yeah, exactly.
I heard this guy in New York City that was on the subway, and another guy was heckling his phone, and the guy went in and stepped in to stop it, and the guy who was slashed this guy with a box on his face, slashed his face. Fast forward like a month or two later, they go to court, and when he goes to court, the woman who he helped was actually siding with the criminal stuff. I mean, that's New York. Yeah, that's New York.
And it makes it, you have no incentive, and they want it like that. No incentive. You go, listen, these people are all living. If somebody's getting harassed, you're talking about my business, it's not me, and I'll just let it happen. And that's like you're taking away the humanism, the nature of it. You have no type of community or semblance of, we're all in this together. And that is destroying what it is to be American, right? You're not American at that point. You're just like a vessel in this like Gotham City type of deal, trying to survive, trying not to get hit by an Indian trucker, trying to not get slashed in the subway. Every man for himself, and there's no sense of community. Nobody speaks the same language. He looks the same. He acts the same. And
ungrateful pigeons are going to testify against you for trying to be a hero. I was hoping you were going to say, fast forward 2 months later, they go on a date, hit it off. Now they have a baby. Like, yeah.
So, what mode of transport is safe in America? You can't take the train because of the like schizophrenic crackheads. You can't drive; you'll get smacked into by an Indian, semi-truck. You can't fly; you'll get hit by like a Black Hawk.
You can't Uber because you can't afford it.
You can't Uber.
you can't ride the bus because not good smell.
You get kicked out of your seat. So it's like, and the smell.
Yeah, it's very good.
People just sleep on it.
You can't bike because bikes, that's just gay. You can't do that. So it's like, what are we supposed to do as Americans? Our rights are being violated. And
That's what things are going wrong. There's a lot of bicycles on the scooters coming back.
it's true. People are willing to endure the next.
I mean, the sidewalks are one thing. This is your.
Why is someone walking Heelys the other day? I mean, if that doesn't tell you how bad crime's getting, I don't know what will.
speak English. They're all Indians, they're all Koreans. And specifically, the stretch of the water, overlooking Manhattan. I look at it and I walk around.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, people are like,
I've never seen a place like California.
well, it's like New York, people are like, how could someone like Zoran get in? Have you ever been to New York City? Like, walk around? I mean, like, it's like a bazaar. It's crazy.
Me and my wife go to Hong Kong, and every year it gets worse and worse with like when you go to a restaurant, you look around and like there's like Russian people speaking Russian, you just speak Japanese. Every year it gets less and less American, and it's like people can't afford it. We're becoming like the Tijuana. Like every mall going to be serving like the this.
Yeah, every mall, literally every mall in Northern Virginia is like a model UN now. I mean, it's like a total disaster. And it's not even, I'm not even concerned about delinquency. It's like these people could all make more money than me. That's perfectly fine. It's that it's not American. I'm an American. I want my children to grow up in a country that looks like America. And it's devastating that it's not, that my inheritance is being robbed.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot of young people that feel the way you do. You know,
That's why we're all radical and schizophrenic. I'm like a moderate. Sensible conservative.
well, yeah, that's sensible conservative. Fair enough. But I mean, I do think that actual perspective that you're articulating, I think that's something that is it's extremely popular nowadays, and I think that's part of why Donald Trump has been so successful. Like he was what was his numbers with Gen Z?
It was like almost
Yeah, incredibly great.
and like, and then they, I mean, we talked about it in the show. It's like there was this poll that came out where Gen Z soured on Trump seemingly overnight. And Tim made the point, and it's true. It's like that's not them thinking, oh, you know, Trump's too conservative. That's them outflanking him to the right. Always on deporting people. Like people do not realize how angry Zoomers are about what's been done to their country.
The argument that Donald Trump was the moderate option is a very true statement. Donald Trump is a Democrat from the news. Genuine. He's not a far-right guy. As much as the left wants to cast him as such, he is not particularly far-right. None of his policy prescriptions are in any way far-right at all. And the American people don't understand what's coming when it comes to when Gen Z is not just is really politically active. Now, granted, there's not a lot of Gen Z like compared to
More than a quarter of us.
well,
It was estimated 28% of Gen Z was aborted.
yeah.
That is almost a billion people. Well, it's about 900 million babies that were Gen Z that were aborted.
I did.
It's demonic.
When you hear, yeah, exactly. When you hear stuff like that, though, I think that actually will harden at least some people. And maybe this is just because I got a baby in the way, but like the idea of outlawing abortion seems obvious to me, and the idea of possibly outlawing the pill is like, well, maybe that's what the human race needs, because of the fact that the birth rates are down in the United States. It's not just this economic side of everything.
It's like all these theories that people have about like birth rates, like it's radical from substance farming to like industrialization of birth rate drops, and then like 2 years ago India goes substance. All of that theory, all this social science went out the window, and everyone's like, oh, it's feminism. Oh, it's actually very simple. It's like a pill, and it's like people comparing themselves to other people. It's actually very simple, and we can fix this by just being very
Yeah.
yeah, like all the social science went out the window. Literally, I remember like studying this thing. There's this economic theory and everything. It's not a book. It's just a pill, and like yeah, people get on TikTok and see people like, oh no, I'm celebrating this and that. It's all offensive. That's the only way you can explain it. Now.
Never would have been free from again. Like the technology has been launched. The asymmetry between men and women has been flattened. We don't know what to do now.
Now there's new birth controls like I think it's called Meta. And your girlfriend could be in it. That's birth control.
If Funko Pops,
I don't know what birth control.
I mean, it's getting out of control. I agree with you. I think the only way out of this mess, and I hate to sound like, you know, soapbox person, but it's like religiosity, specifically Christianity. It's the only way out of this mess. Seriously.
I don't know that not that I
That's difficult and more just in mind.
Affected world, that's a god. Like, so really what's happened is the religions that we remember, the religions that came before, have been replaced in Western countries with this secular religion. And it doesn't have to have a Christ-like figure, even though the Christ-like figures are what people think of when they think of religion, when they think of a god, like the Christian God or whatever, or the Catholic God or the Muslim God. That's not necessary for religion. That is one type of religion, but there's all kinds of other religions that have existed in human history. And man today in the West has replaced traditional religions with this kind of secular religion. And so whether or not you can convince, whether or not people will believe in the older religions isn't whether or not they will believe in religion.
Well, I don't know if it's a question of whether or not Gen Z is going to show any interest in traditional religion. It's already happening. I just reminded myself of this stat. Okay, there is a 6% increase in Gen Z identifying as Catholic, specifically between 2022 and 2023. That's huge. That's huge. And also,
It's Gen Z who are the smallest generation.
the number of church-going
Yeah.
is increasingly male. So now the majority of church-going Gen Zers are male. That's history.
Because men are the most lost in this modern world.
Well, it's because, like you said, okay, if a lot of these questions are being answered, like, okay, where does the sun go, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, that's whatever. Like, okay, the scientific, we can, that'll be Dawkins and John Lennox can debate that. We'll leave that. That's like the highbrow stuff. It's the basic questions that drives every human being when they go to sleep at night is, who am I? Why am I here? Where am I going to go when I die? And science will never, ever, ever, ever answer that question. Ever, and God will.
Well, I mean, I agree that those questions are basic and that they're fundamental to the human experience, right? I just don't know that people are going to go to God in enough numbers where it would actually change the crashing birth rates. I mean, that's my
The
point.
other place they're going, they're retreating to basically witchcraft.
Well, yeah, I'm
Witchcraft is gaining popularity specifically with women, but also overall, it's been commercialized into a multi-billion-dollar industry.
your crystals.
You can't escape it. It's everywhere.
Yeah, I love some.
It's all over the
That's part of my point,
YouTubes.
right? Like, it just because there has been an increase in traditional religion doesn't mean that it's actually going to be the thing that's fixing our population going on. You know what I mean?
Like restoring the West to the pre-modern state of things is going to take more generation. I'm much more optimistic about the children that Zoomers will raise, actually, than I am of the generation that Gen Xers. I love Gen Xers, but it's just true. The fact that Zoomers have effectively figured all this out on their own is a very strong indicator for what the next generation of Zoomers will do.
Institutions like the church and marriage just have a way of reasserting themselves.
Well, that way is because everyone on the one side is saying, oh, I'm going to have my children, and I'm not going to have any kids. And if you're not going to bring kids into the world, people that are having children are going to inherit the earth. No matter what you do, it's going to end up.
And the children that we have as right wingers will be much more well rounded. They're just gonna want it more. The guys that, whatever kids the left
I think
wingers
it's managed not to be selecting their, gender or that they identify as a cat. In these schools, they have the litter boxes. The children are
and there's traits like neuroticism that are passed along. So it's like the left is like giving them like a basket case. They're all gonna have like all these different problems. They'll be collecting the booze. And the right wingers are just gonna be like, yeah, fantastic.
making money, doing,
All right, well, we're going to go to Super Chat, so you smash that like button, share the show with your head on over to rumble.com so you can join us for the after show, which comes up in about 20 minutes. We can say whatever we want. There's no YouTube limits or YouTube censorship. And then after that, you want to head on over to timcast.com and join the Discord, so that way you can call into the after show. You can talk to the panel, you can ask our guest questions, you can find like-minded people, you can maybe start your own podcast. There's like 4 different podcasts that have started in the Discord. You can maybe meet a girlfriend, maybe have kids, maybe get married, all those good things, that wholesome stuff that you can find in community. And that's what we want to see. We want to see people joining the Discord and engaging in a community like that. Right now, we're going to go to Super Chats. Hector Garcia says, how much longer are you planning on wearing the Phil skin suit? I mean, I think it's clear that I'm not Tim. Tim's been doing this a long time. He's much better at driving the ship than I am. So I think it's pretty clear that Tim's not me and I'm not Tim. When Tim comes back, I'll be right over there. Let's see. Jake says false accusation should hold the same punishment as what you were accusing someone of. I'm not sure the context in this, but I don't have a problem with that.
That was when we were talking about Schiff, and you never should Schiff face the death penalty for accusing Trump of treason, which the penalty is death. So what would say that's what we have.
Well, I mean, I think that he should face whatever the extent of the law. So whatever the most
Tim's Hammurabi's code.
Okay, there we go. T-Bomb85 says, stop giving CDLs to people from countries where they drive like a game of chicken. They don't think twice to run you off the road out here in the Southwest. I mean, look, that's kind of the point that Mary was making, right? Like, if you have people that disregard the rules of your country, they're certainly not going to take into account the rules of the road. And I think that is a good thing to prevent those kind of people from coming here. If they are here, round them up and send them back home to someplace that is more accommodating for their side of the culture. Let's see. Shot at J-Mo says, I knew a trucker guy say an Indian guy got out of his truck and just took a crap right there in front of his truck.
It's culturally,
That's like, it could have been Bourbon Street, though. Who knows?
It could have been multiple places. Let's see. Ren G. Stanley says, I worked in the industrial world for 15 or so years. There are definitely white truckers. Talk to our owners, too. That's a crazy statement. I'm not sure which one is crazy. But, I mean...
Or having their jobs waste.
Yeah. I mean, that is true. But I still think that in the long run, most jobs are going to be replaced with automation and with robots. But I know that that's unpopular around here. I think that's the future that that is already basically here. It's just a matter. I'm not sure about technocracy. I'm not sure that it's a technocracy, but I do think that the automation is not going to be just something that's delegated to factories in the future. I think that it's going to be, it's going to be ubiquitous. I think that Musk is probably right. There will be, in 10 years, there'll be hundreds of thousands of humanoid robots walking around and this, and I think that most people are going to be really okay with it fairly quickly. There will be people that will not. I'm sure of that. I'm sure that I'm going to catch a lot of hell from the chat just for saying that. But that's my sense. You're more than welcome.
The guy who's going to sell them to us is saying we're going to have them. I mean,
well, I mean, look,
he's going to sell them. He wants that to be the case.
Again, I mean, you can be skeptical if you want, but I do think that. Go ahead.
Did you ever see Peter Thiel? Do you think humanity will persist? Very simple question. Yeah, of course. I don't think you can raise to persist. He goes, I don't know about that. What? What, buddy? What are you saying? That's a very scary, cold basketball moment.
Yeah, I mean,
the human race to persist? What do you want?
I just got back to school. We all have that feeling.
I don't know.
Black Friday, he was at a Walmart, and he's like, oh, man.
These things, there can be some context for this. Maybe he got back. Yeah, maybe he went like, yeah, could be,
Lots of sexual men.
But they go to Lowe's, actually. The light and loafers, they have Lowe's people.
John Burt's a member for 60 months. We appreciate the heck out of you. He says, 5 years. A big shout out to all the awesome people I've been lucky enough to know. Thank you to the Timcast team, and especially Tim. Learned so much. That is great to hear. Thank you for being a member and sticking with us. Cheers, man. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. Let's see. The Deuteronomist said, my dad was a trucker and I got my CDL. The issue was trucking used to be a trade that people appreciated. Used to be a trade that people apprenticed for. The bar has been lowered by easy schooling, basically DEI to open the trade to everyone. I mean, look, that's the way that kind of it goes. But really, I understand that trucking at some point was similar to a trade, but it is one of the trucking is something that most people can do. Most Americans, most people can drive, particularly if you can speak the language of the country that you're in. You can learn the rules of the road, and most people can at least. So the idea that it's specialized, I mean, part of the reason why they're stuffing people that are newly arrived foreigners and illegal immigrants into these jobs is because it is something that they can generally do if they can read English. I think the failure point is that we're allowing people that aren't familiar with the country and can't read the language and can't speak the language along them to drive, and that's where the breaking point.
I've never driven an 18-wheeler, but I imagine it's a little more difficult. Driving a truck. Right? Like, so there is it's even scarier to think that, obviously people can learn these things, but the fact that they got to learn it and they can't speak English, they're very low IQ people, smaller brains.
I think the blind spot for an 18-wheeler is like 100 feet or something that you can't see. I think it might be higher.
I don't know about but I mean, look, Venture Plus, it's definitely harder than driving. It's definitely harder than driving like your Toyota. But I mean, your average person that gets an RV, those can be really big things. They're the size of buses, the size of they're 45-foot. They're called XL2s, what they use in the music industry nowadays, or XLs, 45-foot long, and they are more difficult to drive than a regular vehicle. It's not something that's
is named after one of the companies in the trades who inspired it, and the design. Every step was in the process for listening to the guys who actually made fun to see the
safer than having illegal immigrants on the road is exactly what liberal tech bros want. White American trucker, I don't know what your point is. That is what they want, but it is also there is going to come a time when vehicles will be driven more safely by robots than by humans. That will happen. And I mean, I'm sorry to be, you can be mad at me about it, but it's true. So, it's perfectly fine for me. Shane H. Wilder says, with deportations, some leftists are calling to bring back the Resurrected program that ended in 1964 because it made workers essentially slave laborers and required them to be sprayed with DDT before working. Well, that sounds terrible. I don't know anything about this. But yeah, thanks. Evan for us says, if y'all want to see some shocking data on the dating, marriage, homeowner, look at the statistics on the number of Gen Z that are married and or have children. We are in deep S if we don't fix it. I'm not sure that there is a fix coming. Gen Z has to have 4 kids each for replacement. Right? Boomers and Gen X were at the 2.1. There were so few millennials and even fewer still Gen Z. They have to have 4. So I don't know if that fix is coming or not. A lot of people, that's another thing that people there's a lot of people that are the idea of so much automation, it's terrible. It might be necessary, just to have a society that functions, because you've got fewer people that fill the jobs that are necessary to keep society working, and you're going to need somehow to get the garbage taken out. You're going to need somehow to get things built. You're going to need somehow to get a lot of things done that people do, but there's just not enough Gen Z to do it.
Yeah. Go about 2 weeks ago on the Culture War channel, my interview with Nate Fisher. That's a really good case, the right-wing case for automation. It's very pragmatic, especially dealing with population decline. He does a good job of explaining how AI could actually be a good solution for increasing the birth rate, just because women particularly work these pointless email jobs oftentimes. And if you can automate those out, increase male wages through increasing their productivity, then we could actually see the total fertility rate increase as
you might see a lot of the depression, considerable amount of depression that you see in the go away. Because honestly, I think that military career, they work for a little while, then they get married and they have a kid and they take time off and they're like, I don't want to have my kid. I love my kid. I love hanging out with my kid. Why do I want to go back to work? And some of them don't have the opportunity, they don't have the ability to stay home. But a lot of women, if you say, hey, would you rather stay home or would you rather go back to work? I'm staying home with my kid. Hey, this is the best thing ever. So,
Which is the problem with the show Apprentice, you know? Great show. If you're a fan, I get it, but you've got this whole entire generation. I have to be a girl boss. And if we need that opposite push, you know, we need some viral, you know, movement because it's just insanity. It's France.
Cat 318. Sorry. Cat 318 says Kathy Hochul said at a press conference that what happened to President Trump wouldn't happen to any other business after President Trump lost that case. Tish James just needs to go after real criminals. Well, yeah, but they say that, but the precedent's already been set, right? They say that it won't happen until, you know, the next president that gets in is on the record. Because remember, they were saying that Donald Trump is the worst thing that could ever happen. He's worse than Hitler. Literally verbatim, he's worse than Hitler. And then, as soon as like you start talking about J.D. Vance, you see think pieces coming out. Donald Trump was bad, but whoa boy, J.D. Vance is worse. There were people that were starting to make that very argument about Ron DeSantis when DeSantis was running against Donald Trump. DeSantis dropped out, where everyone saw the lips in his boots, and they were like, look, you know, DeSantis might actually be worse than Trump because he's confident and Donald Trump is a buffoon. Look, they were starting to make that argument. That is the argument that the left will make forever because they don't have any principle at all. They only use words as a means to strike fear in people. They're totally postmodern. They don't have to have, their words don't have to have any attachment to reality. That's why they call Donald Trump. Even though he's nothing like Hitler, like his policies are not like any kind of socialism or national socialism, nothing like that at all. But they draw any connection to Hitler they can because they don't have the ability to make reasoned arguments. They only have the ability to say that he is the worst thing ever because they believe that words don't have meaning, words are just access to power. It's all postmodern garbage. Anyway. Let's see, what do we got here? Mosif Stalin 69 says, Mary absolutely cracks me up. You got a fan, Mary.
Thanks.
And he has a lot of fans. He didn't say
Am I funny in a laughing at or laughing at?
laughing with kind of thing. So, St. Miles says, Mary, the Oracle of Timcast IRL has spoken.
This me?
No, the other Mary. Yes, you.
I'm flattered.
They call you the Oracle. You get a lot of Let's see. Dave Flores says, Kellen, imagine a bunch of S-bag New Yorkers talking S about Maryland. Completely homo.
Way to go, Mike. Sorry about it. Listen, New York is quickly becoming more of a failed society, and obviously I'm adopting all that, but we will always be better than Maryland in every single way, in every single form. I'm sorry.
That was Kellen that said?
You're from Maryland. I'm from New York. It's not even comparable. I made one comment.
Gotta go with that.
I made one comment about Maryland, and I'm the type that digs my heels in.
Okay, we need an enemy.
Yeah, we're done.
We need to unite ourselves. We need a fall guy.
Are you?
Like that.
S.A. Federale says, I feel like Mary consistently is proven right that nothing ever happens, and the argument that she's gullible is something seems to be happening, then it goes away and nothing actually happens that needs to. So she's right. No one's ever said that she's gullible. I don't think anyone's ever said that about Mary or here.
I think he's saying the people who think that something is happening are gullible. They're like, look, something's happening.
Okay, so
frantically searching
look, there was
evidence of something happening.
there was a poll that sort of put up, does anything ever happen? And there was 57% said yeah all the time. So
I'm sure Maryland I could have worded that a lot better, but it's pretty split. It was like 50% over.
I'm gonna take a little jab at this one. Red Pilled Again says, I cannot wait for AI to replace podcast talking at just like truck drivers. I know that that's a shot at me, but listen.
That's kind of a funny one.
Yeah, you think it's funny. You're not winning anything because my job was replaced by Spotify 15 years ago. Okay, I sell records. People stopped buying records 15 years ago. So if you think that you're funny, like I'm already neck deep in it.
He's been replaced once.
Already
He
neck
made
deep.
a comeback.
Yeah.
Like, he will figure out how to do it again.
Don't think that like, oh, you're so mean for talking about this. F you. Like this has already happened to me. If it were the 90s, I would never mind. Anyways. People who used to buy records, they stopped buying records. Now they buy Spotify for $10 a month and get all the music in the world for free. So don't give me that, oh, it's so bad that it's happening to me now.
AI cannot screw up an ad read like I can. Right? It's too good. It's too perfect.
Let's see. Maverick Cuba says, why should American businesses, landowners be punished for not proper vetting? Do you see how the property business seizures will be used to punish Americans for not legally vetting other Americans for work/rent under the table? Look, we're all for citizenship.
Yeah, look at that. Oh, you're not a. Oh, are you a citizen or you want?
Yeah.
It's that hard to figure out.
I mean, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. If you're coming from the position of, look, the government can't be trusted, I get it and I agree, right? But the idea that the government can't be trusted so we can never do anything only lets the left rule the country. That's all there is to it. It allows the left to do whatever they want, and then the Republicans, and that's part of the problem with Republicans now. It's not, we can't do this, that's unprincipled, this isn't the role of the federal government, etc., etc., etc. You have to exercise power when you have it.
We're gonna go a little authoritarian to fix these problems. Sorry.
I mean, I agree, but the argument that the government doesn't have that authority, they do it all the time. They use civil asset forfeiture to take your cash if you're going to buy a car in cash. What's that cash for? Well, it's mine now, and the police just take it, and you have no recourse. Like, the government does this stuff all the time to benefit itself. It's time for the government to use the powers that it has taken for itself to benefit the American people.
Yeah, well, it's like, oh, you don't trust the government. Everyone that hates you does.
Yeah, they do, and they're going to use it to do terrible things to you and the things that you love. So I get it, I understand your argument, but I abandoned that argument a long time ago when I stopped being libertarian because it doesn't work in the real world. That's all there is to it. If you don't use the power of government when your party has it, if you don't have representatives that will use that power, you are just saying, let the left use the power, let the left beat up on me, let the left destroy my country, let the left do all the things they want to do, and I'm too principled to do it. Well, I tell you what, I'm not too principled to tell the government to use power on my behalf for my benefit. Not a bot says, when my dad's family came to America from Mexico, my grandpa told me not to teach his children to speak Spanish because we were all American now. He was a Marachi, and he was so proud to earn his family citizenship. And that's great. That is exactly how immigrants to America should behave. They should stop speaking the language from their home country. They should become American.
Throw away the Selena Gomez Oreos. Eat normal Oreos.
I remember a moment when I was in middle school, whatever, when I started Italian, like language, and I don't know anything. I go to my parents, why didn't you teach me Italian? I mean, I came to this country, my parents said, you learn English, and that's it, because we're here. It's like, that is so bad.
Yeah, I don't see why people don't make the connection of if you are in the country, you should be speaking English. But we're going to wrap it up from here. So, actually, do you want to go ahead and shout anything out?
It's been great to be on the show tonight. Appreciate it. Very based conversation. Long live America, hopefully. And you guys can follow me on X at Mike Crispy. Follow me on X. I think it's there.
Mary?
Oh, I was waiting for you.
You want to shout anything out?
Producer Frankie on X.
Oh, there we go.
I knew it was
Just started it?
brand new.
Alright, you guys can go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis. We go live every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archive. You can send me hate on X, that is also Mary Archive. And help me get TikTok famous, that is also Mary Archive.
Alright, 69 views. I think that's a good place to stop.
Instagram at Real Tape
So
Round.
that's what I'm gonna do.
I don't film any morning shows next week. Hopefully, but if not, you'll see me Monday.
See you guys.
Tomorrow.